Guys, we are back with the Screen Team. I am Chris, and I'm being joined by Miguel Hibbler.
Hola.
Michael, if you're not familiar with him, is one of the original Screen Teamers back in the day.
Way back when.
Way back,
Very
man.
first time.
Very, very first time. And him and I, we like a lot of the same movies. It's true. But we're huge fans of Christopher Nolan.
Exactly. He's one of the best directors of today, in my opinion.
Do you remember like one of the first movies you saw? What was one of the first Nolan movies you saw?
Well, probably Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
But Interstellar, which is one, it's not one of his first ones, but to me that was an outstanding movie.
Yeah.
And what's that DiCaprio?
Inception?
Inception. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. Did you ever see Memento?
Yes. He did Memento?
He did Memento, yeah.
With Guy Pearce?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. That's the first one then, because I saw that when I was still living back in California.
Yeah, that one will hurt your head.
Starts at the end and goes all the way at the beginning. That Christopher Nolan is he's brilliant in my opinion.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best directors in a very long time, and one of them now.
He also did Insomnia. He also did The Prestige about the magicians. Yep. So he's definitely got a lot of good films on his resume. And we're going to be talking about his next one. It's called Dunkirk. And Dunkirk was a thing in history that I was not aware of. Were you? No. Basically, this is something that happened in World War II before the U.S. got involved in the conflict. So this is pre-Pearl Harbor.
Exactly.
Basically, we've got Allied forces, we've got British Army, I think some French, the French as well. They're on Dunkirk, which is kind of like they're a beach area type place.
And I don't think it's too far from
England.
From England, yeah.
Right. So they are in a bad situation. They're in conflict with the Germans. The Germans have them pretty much backed up, and they're going to take over.
It seems to be their equivalent of D-Day, Omaha Beach.
Yeah.
You know, just being absolutely drilled by the Germans, how the Germans are set, and just guys on the beach just literally having to not know if you're going to survive the next second or the next.
So scary, yeah.
Absolutely. So
yeah. So basically, that's kind of what that's a little prehistory for you, I guess. In the story of Dunkirk, we've got three different stories going on. We've got the story of the events that are happening on the beach. We've got the story of civilians from England who were called in to go and rescue the folks over at Dunkirk.
Yeah, a coastal town with people who were fishermen, experienced, boat users who know how to, drive a boat, sail boats, motorboats, whatever to go.
And from what I understand, they couldn't get Navy ships in there because they didn't want to risk.
It's too shallow.
Yeah,
it was way too shallow. Yeah, and that also too, like at certain times, the tide recedes dramatically, and that would absolutely strand a ship. So ships have to be way out there because they're huge and they're heavy.
Right.
Right.
So in our final timeline is a timeline of the fighter pilots trying to help rescue some of the folks over on Dunkirk as well. So with that being said, Dunkirk, what did you think of it, Mike?
I thought it was outstanding.
It was pretty great.
It was excellent. Definitely up there with movies like Saving Private Ryan. And like you said, touching on the different aspects, it's beautifully done how it doesn't focus on one main star.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the actors weren't big name stars. There's a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And how it jumped around from different situations, but at the same time, they were at different times going on, all leading to one climax.
Yeah.
And that was part. It's kind of mind-blowing if you think about it, but they do it in a way it's not confusing. You understand what's going on. But also, it was just, in a way, poetically done how Nolan touched upon the real strong human aspect of it, the fear.
Right.
The absolute terror that I can't imagine that. That's why I have so much respect for our veterans, to be in that situation, to not know if you're going to survive in just a couple of seconds. Especially, these guys are sitting there on the beach waiting for these ships to come when there's still enemy in the area.
Right.
Planes going over them that could just nail them at any time.
And that's like your only hope. You're waiting for someone to come rescue you, and you're.
But it's like, a lot of the guys, there it shows guys with shell shock, but it shows some of the guys who who didn't like the guys that were shell shocked and called them pansies, and
Right.
and stuff like that. Because when you're in that situation, the emotions, you're not in your clear mind.
And at that time, they didn't know a lot about
Exactly right. They didn't understand truly what shell shock is, and how anybody in that situation, you're just going to be absolutely beyond yourself. But yeah, I mean, you looking at it in a filmmaker's eyes, it has all the aspects of good movie making. I mean, everything about it. The acting was outstanding. The story was beautiful. The cinematography was amazing.
Yeah, the music was good too.
Sound effects too. Yeah. Like, if you have a chance to see in theater, just for the sound and the music too, and the visual effects, which is the point I want to make. It was actually filmed in these incredibly fancy, expensive, hardcore IMAX cameras. It was intended for IMAX.
Yeah. But
they released it normal theater. So imagine seeing it in IMAX would be incredible, because especially in the plane scenes, how realistic they sounded. Like, just there and looked was just, and looking at some of the behind the scenes of them filming, it was just, it was incredible. Like the sets, how elaborate, and like the amount of extras they would had to have for that film.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on that I thought were surprising, especially for a war film. One was the dialogue. There's not a lot of dialogue in this film, which is surprising.
It is. It's like, in a way, like not as much as Castaway, but that's how well done the story is.
Yeah.
So that you can follow it just based upon emotion.
Yeah. And the second thing that I noticed, usually when you watch a war movie, you see a lot of violence. You see a lot of gruesome
limbs flying.
If you saw Hacksaw Ridge, which I really loved, I thought it was a great movie, but there's a lot of violence and stuff like that, and obviously because it's a war setting. This one you didn't have it, but you still had that fear. You still had that.
Exactly.
You felt for these guys. Yeah,
that's why, and it's because they didn't have. If a guy was shot, it didn't show blood squirting and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So Dunkirk, I mean, is this a movie that you want to see again?
I would love to see it again. I definitely think it'll be nominated for an Academy Award, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
I know there are other movies out there right now that I haven't seen that will be Oscar worthy as well, and I'll probably eventually see them. But I definitely believe this is very worthy of an Oscar, at least some aspects. It will win something, whether it's visual or sound or directing, something like that. So absolutely, and I would refer anyone to see it in theater, especially because of the sound effects and the visual graphics and the cinematography. I mean, if you have a good surround sound at home, that would be awesome too. But theater is always an experience that you don't get at home. It's
very true. The movie's called Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. Mike, thanks for being on the show, brother.
I appreciate it. Glad to be back.
Coming up, we have another edition of the Screen Team coming your way next Saturday at 6 p.m. For Mike and Chris, we are the Screen Team, and we want you to know before you go.